This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 19 for August 22nd, 2005. Today. Let me see if I can introduce everybody here. Sitting to my right, Patrick Norton with his fishbone shirt. Is that some sort of punk ska?
Ska.
Yeah. Kevin Rose.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you. Sitting behind Kevin, his counselor. Is this going to be the future for Kevin?
No.
Anytime we ask you something, he's going to whisper in your ear.
That's his Scientology rap.
All right. On Skype, we've got Roger Chang from GameSpot.com. Hey, Roger.
Hey, what's up?
Steve Gibson also on Skype, but Steve's found a new technique. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on.
Glad to be joining the gang.
Joining the gang and via phone, as we still can't. John C. Dvorak. What is the deal, John, with your Skype? Why are we not able to ever
I don't know, but the funny thing was, I tried to move it over to a laptop today. The first time I ever used Skype, it worked fine, but now it's not working for crap. But I moved it to a laptop, and it crashed, and had to send a message back to Skype headquarters. So I'm thinking, geez.
We've penetrated Dvorak's office, begin the brainwashing.
Something's up.
At least that program probably knows how to get a message back to headquarters.
We're not convinced of that.
One hopes. But you do have a new internet access.
Yeah, that didn't help, did it?
Well, it did briefly. We were able to, I don't know. I think then we had problems with your microphone.
Yeah.
You know what? You deserve to be on the phone. By popular demand, can you just do one thing for me, John?
Oh, gladly.
Can you say, I get no spam?
I get no spam. It's a fact. It's unbelievable.
You know, there's a logo.
Do you get any email?
There's an avatar that's got John's head, and it says, I get no spam.
I get no spam. I get more spam on my blog. And the thing is, you got it. We're working on that part of it because that's a little harder to beat because, there's certain things you can do. But we do have, we are blocking IPs left and right now.
That's a big problem on wikis, blogs, and websites, anywhere where you allow comments.
Yeah.
These stupid phenteramine...
Party poker
and all that. Jeez. They just get on there.
No kidding.
What are they up to?
Are they automated?
I don't think so. It seems like people, they always put a comment in like, yes, I agree. By the way, partypoker.com.
I love that one.
Like out of nowhere.
It has nothing to do with the topic?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And grow hair naturally.
Well, my other favorite one is, wow, you've got a great blog. It's unbelievably good. And then they have some link to something that's, some spam. And I can't imagine how many bloggers who probably have, no customers. They say, let me post this.
Yeah, right. Oh, wow. Somebody actually put a comment on my blog.
Well, they're finally starting. There's a couple different services. TypePad now has that type key.
That works pretty well.
It works pretty well. It requires you to actually create an account and log in before you can comment on someone's blog. And then Blogger just added CAPTCHA images. So you have to actually physically type in that little image that,
every
time. Twisty.
Well, they have those add-ins for WordPress, too, which is what I use. But I find them annoying when I run into them, so I'm trying to avoid both of those things.
Well, then what's the option? Just administering it
You just have
constantly.
to block a lot of IPs. And luckily, the newest WordPress has a mark all as spam. So what you do is just go through the comments and say yes to the ones that you like, and then click on the button that says mark all as spam, and it erases them all.
I have good eyesight, and sometimes I am unable to type those CAPTCHA things in correctly. It's like, what the hell is that? Is that at all?
Oh, especially if it's both lower and uppercase.
I find it really difficult when I'm on acid because you can't really tell if it's you or the CAPTCHA.
But how do you discern anything on the screen when you're on acid?
Oh, everything else looks crisp and clear, except for the snakes.
What are you guys talking about?
Did you hear that Hunter S. Thompson's funeral was today?
It was yesterday.
They blew up his ashes.
Well, they were talking about Canon, right?
No, they didn't.
No.
They were originally going to do that at Canon. They couldn't get the permit to do the Canon, so Johnny Depp paid to build a 15-foot tower that was in the semblance of the sort of freak power campaign, the double-fisted thumb he used to do for the Gonzo movement.
Yeah.
And they blew the ashes out with fireworks.
Oh, that's
red,
so
white,
great.
blue, and green fireworks.
So was he cremated right after then?
That's usually what one does with a body.
He
was cremated afterwards.
Oh, you mean because it was a long time ago that he died? Yeah. It's been months.
Yeah.
So it's just been sitting there on someone's fire mantle?
That's not unusual either, Roger.
I think they should have taken him to Burning Man and just put him on the Burning Man.
I don't really think Burning Man was Thompson's style like 40 years ago.
He would have said amateurs.
Yeah.
Did you ever know him, Jack? Because you were a columnist with at the Examiner at the same time he was.
Yeah, I worked with him, had a couple lunches, and chatted with him a few times over the phone when he was getting his computer set up.
Was he as gonzo in person as he pretended to be in his books?
I thought he was just kind of... Well, I've heard stories, but I never got to witness anything really weird. I mean, I did witness the fact that he liked to drink a lot.
Yeah.
And I went to a couple of Christmas parties where he was at. One time we went to Campton Place and had lunch with Hearst and Warren Hinkle, and Hunter had a tumbler, a full tumbler, like a water glass tumbler full of Chivas. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That takes the two fingers
we're drinking
far.
wine, you know. He's drinking a tumbler. There's a whole tumbler. It's amazing.
You guys, no disrespect, but you guys just don't understand the whole concept of alcoholism, do you? As a resident sober person, let me explain it to you. Tumbler of Chivas? Yeah, that's a single serving size. Until it's empty,
like
and
a
you
reasonable
refill
lunch
it.
drink.
But the next day, I mean, oh my God!
Actually,
people like that don't get hangovers.
Yeah, a lot of people their livers adapt, Steve, and they consume either their livers adapt or the other thing you do is you start drinking again before you have the full impact of the hangover, and you just smooth it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you never
I mean,
really get
you get to the point where you know people will be drinking like a quart or a liter or whatever you want to call those a bottle a day when their total caloric intake.
You know, the other funny thing I found about him was that he was really interested in, if anyone, and I like to do this, was to deconstruct his writing.
Really? His own writing?
Yeah, he didn't seem to me to be overconfident as a writer, and he was always looking for, like, you know, what you thought of things. That I found that unusual. And his other thing that I found out from him was that Faulkner was his real influence.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, that's why he was always deconstructing his writing. If you look at his letters, and he's like, he's bagging on himself for 30 decades.
Well, it's hard to live up to Faulkner. That's a pretty high standard.
But do you want to live up to Faulkner?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Yaknapatawpha County. I don't know. It's a tough choice. So let's talk about tech. The Zotab virus. Steve and I talked about it pretty extensively in the new security podcast we're doing, but what do you think? Who's to blame here? About 35% of IT executives blame Microsoft. Is that ridiculous? Should you blame the virus author?
The problem is that people are not patching immediately. There's a lot of criticism, you know.
But you can't patch if you're in a corporation and you've got 5,000 computers. Exactly,
because we've run across situations where the patching quickly breaks other things.
Right.
And so they have to be fully vetted before they're able to verify that it's not going to create some other problem.
A number of IT execs wrote me because I talked about this a little bit on the air, and they said, look, you got to understand, we cannot just apply these patches. We've got to test them. It takes us, so if they've got a 3-day turnaround on the virus, as they did in this case, we're not going to be able to patch in time.
Can somebody describe how the virus works?
The virus uses, it's a remote NetBIOS port, 445 exploit for Windows 2000. So it's a worm.
It's a worm.
Yeah.
Which means it infects you without any.
Right.
And so what happened was all the corporations that had corporate firewalls protecting their perimeters, they were safe, but employees picked this thing up at home or elsewhere over the weekend, brought them inside the corporate network, and it just went wild.
What did it do?
It infects the machines, installs a backdoor. There's actually, the Zotab was the first, but there's now 12 and counting different worms, which are all variations on 3 primary worms, and so it's just become a real worm fest.
Logged into an IRC server that then gives the hacker the ability to command your machine. It had several commands. One was download this file, so you could put any arbitrary code on there.
So the idea was to create zombie machines, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the idea of all viruses these days, right? I mean, it's now to take over your machine so that you'll be forwarding spam or used for a DDoS attack. I mean, what other purpose is there?
Do we have a count on how many machines were affected?
I don't think that many. The problem was it affected all these big media companies who then said, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
I think it was a lot more than just large media companies. I mean,
sure was.
Who runs Windows 2000 and Office environments? Half the Fortune 1000 firms.
But all the attention was CNN, New York Times, ABC, Disney. It's funny to watch CNN and Wolf Blitzer try to explain what's going on, they said it was Windows 99.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Oh, you're kidding.
On the air.
That is embarrassing.
Which is worse, Connie Chung saying DOS instead of DOS to Bill Gates?
DOS and Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
DOS.
I got a dose of Zotab for you.
I think the real problem here is, we've all been worrying about these so-called zero-day problems where something could take over the net or do some real damage in, like virtually zero time. But the significant factor here was that never was there a public disclosure of what the vulnerability was. This thing was reverse engineered from the fix for the vulnerability. So within 3 days of issuing the patch, they basically took the patch, figured out what was changed in the DLLs, and determined what the vulnerability was, then exploited the vulnerability, and had a worm out and running on the net within 3 days.
Pretty remarkable, really.
So essentially, Microsoft now, it's not about not disclosing the vulnerability, it's they can't even fix the vulnerability.
Wow. That's great. I mean, from a story perspective, not from the user's perspective.
No, but it's
wow, that's a fantastic
It's amazing.
concept.
Yeah. So get back to the question I posed. Whose fault is it?
Ultimately, we have to hold Microsoft accountable for having an operating system out there which has these problems. I mean, as you and I talked about, actually, it was the last segment you and I did last week up in Canada, Leo. Security vulnerabilities are incredibly hard to guard against preemptively, but it has to be done. I mean, Microsoft's got a ton of money. Let's have them put more money into making this stuff not have problems.
Although, what's interesting is this did not impact XP. Microsoft has put a ton of money into protecting XP. It impacted 2000.
That's a good point. And XP was not insecure, even if it was not behind a firewall. It would have taken much. You couldn't have created a worm this easily for XP.
So what's happening is it's like a tube of butter that you're squeezing. It's coming out between the fingers. That's a very bad analogy.
God. Making us sick.
Although, for example, Microsoft already, remember they previewed Monad, the advanced command line interpreter for Vista, and 5 viruses were created immediately, so they've removed Monad from the initial release. So here again,
what's going to be left once they get Vista out the door?
Arrow and glass. And some file formatting or some file structure changes. It's going to be search, arrow, glass, and virtual folders.
You're doing with PC Mag. You're doing a roundtable on Vista on the beta. Has that happened yet, or is that coming?
That's happening next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
That's going to be very interesting. Can you give us a little preview of it, Patrick?
Well, essentially, the PC Mag team descended on Windows Vista as if they were a plague of hungry little locusts and just tore it apart. Michael Miller's going to be on talking about what they found and summarize, and then I'm going to do a video walkthrough of it.
The irony is this is the beta, but as we can tell, it's going to be changing pretty.
Well, Steve brings it up like the Monad tool. It's it hits
the
screen 24, 36 hours later. It's been whacked with by a very large stick, and they decide they're going to remove it, and they've been removing stuff successively. I mean, at this point, it's almost like, Windows Vista by a commitment to an entirely, a somewhat different, it's based on Server 2003, so it kind of is more secure because we've got,
This would explain why 12,000 people rioted in Virginia for 1,000 4-year-old iBooks. I mean, you wouldn't see 12,000 people rioting to get a 4-year-old Dell.
And remember, we talked about that. The iBook offer was something that you mentioned, Leo.
Why did they riot? It was for $50.
Oh,
I'll give you a 4-year-old Dell for $50. I have one right here. Would you riot for it, John?
If it was set up, this was a situation that was just set up poorly, and it became a kind of a self-fulfilling, out-of-control riot based on the fact that people were pushing against each other. They weren't rioting because they wanted 4-year-old laptops from Apple, for God's sake.
Well, I don't know. Why were
they rioting? Because people were cutting.
Well, maybe that's it.
No cutsies.
No cutsies. This is a $50 iBook, that the school district in Virginia was giving away.
Did you see the video?
It was like crazy.
There was like baby strollers that were just mangled. I mean, it was nuts. People were taken out in stretchers. They brought in the SWAT team in riot gear.
Hysteria. It happens every once in a while. I mean, this happens for this will happen for a Star Trek's release or Star Wars release if they ever do it.
But I say again, I don't think it'll ever happen for a 4-year-old Inspiron.
I bet you it would.
Try it. Let's try it.
No.
Okay, come to the
not for one, but if you said you had 1,000 for sale,
$50, maybe you're right. I
mean, there's so many better ways to do it, and they didn't.
No. But I think they had no idea. But the fact that people were posting on my message board here in California, and you had to be a resident of the county to get this, tells you that they got more interest in it.
Why not do a little auction site, for example?
Yeah, well, that seems kind of obvious.
Auction sites are restrictive to people who don't have, access to credit cards or access to the internet.
That's right. They need the laptop in order to log on to the auction site.
That's just not even just a auction. Like just do a raffle.
Fundamentally, the problem is they said we've got 1,000 of these notebooks. We're going to sell them for $50. Everybody's like, it's an iBook. It must be better. It's got the Macintosh. It's a computer. It's only $50. Hot damn.
Hey, if they're so, but if that's the case, how come Macintosh doesn't have more market share? I mean,
that's
the whole thing.
Because they don't sell enough $50 notebooks.
The price point.
But at the same price point, how come they don't have more market share? I explained this, by the way, in last week's Market Watch column as an example of a certain phenomenon taking place in the American psyche as we speak. Check it out, folks. You can check it out.
Dvorak.com/blog.
I thought we weren't supposed to be so
you can go to Dvorak.com.
An incredibly engaging column describing the phenomenon.
One of the best.
If you send me $25, I will send you a compact disc with the information on it.
I should.
We're going to try, Steve and I are going to try something with this new security podcast. They're about 20 minutes each, so we can get 4 on one CD. We're going to go to Lulu. Remember we had Bob Young on from Lulu. That's you print it yourself, and they charge $5.50 for the CD. We'll charge $10, and we'll put 4 of them. And we'll just do a set, and we'll see. I'd be very interested to see. I mean, look, everybody's trying different models. We're not trying to make money on the thing, basically.
Oh yeah, no, you're not trying to make money. You just want to do it as
it's sort of the cafe press model, right?
Let me tell you how much I make from Cafe Press each and every month without fail. $37. So I'm telling you, I know we're not going to make a lot of money.
It's got a week's lattes covered.
But I keep throwing stuff against the wall.
Hey, it's free money.
If one of them works, then we'll know that, hey, we've got a model.
Do you still have the Leo Laporte boxers?
Boxers? Hell, I've got thongs.
Oh, you did?
With your face on them? Yeah.
Oh, I could just see
they
the
sell well. The boxers sell better than the thongs. Not a lot of guys wear thongs. Speaking of which, did you see that looking at porn makes you go blind?
What?
Briefly. Blind. They did this test. Yale University researcher. They had people look at slides and describe the slides following, and they had a variety of slides, and they were not able to remember the following slides at all when there was a pornographic or a violent image. Apparently, the brain takes some time to process these images
or to recover from it.
Exactly. Well, that's precisely right. They recover.
That or they're just still thinking about it.
Oh, baby.
That's exactly right.
What was that?
So Mom was right. It does make you go blind.
What about growing the hair on the palm of your hands?
Scientists are working on that right now at Texas A&M.
That's the best part about watching.
I'd be happy if I could grow on the top of my head.
No kidding.
What do I have to do to have that happen?
Genes. We could tell you, but this is a family podcast.
So Linus is trademarking Linux.
It's about time.
Funny that he never did.
I think he can't do it now. I think it's over.
He's trying.
I think it's a lost cause. I think it's crazy.
He has a copyright just by virtue of doing it. What would the trademark mean? Trademark mean would nobody else could use it without licensing it from him?
In other words, you can't start calling it GNU Linux.
It's all about Richard Stallman.
No, if that's the rationale, I'm all for it. Can I tell a Richard Stallman story?
Please do. Richard Stallman, just so people know, is one of the original MIT hackers who created the Free Software Foundation and the GPL license.
And much of the software that we think of as being Linux.
Yeah, that's right.
He'll tell you.
And that's why Richard wants you to call it GNU Linux. Anyway,
that's
quite a character.
Kind of part of the story. Yeah, he's kind of a crazy character. He's a nice enough guy, but he's antisocial in a funny way. But anyway, so we're going to have him on Silicon Spin as a guest, And so, he signed him up, and he would have been a good guest because it was going to be, a controversial show about Linux, and it was going to really promote his ideas. But he made this edict that we couldn't have him on the show, or he wouldn't do the show unless everyone on the show agreed in advance to only refer to Linux as GNU Linux.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm telling you, this was going to be a show that was going to highlight him and what he was about and what we were trying to do and the importance of it and all the rest of it. But he refused to do the show because of this one
He's a purist.
little thing. And I thought that from then it was just, this guy's nuts. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Well, there's a coda to the story because on the screensavers we agreed and we put him on.
Oh, really?
But that's the difference between a roundtable show. You can't tell your guests.
No, I can't tell people what to say.
But Patrick and I said, yeah, we'll call it GNU Linux to have. But then you know what we did? We kind of got a little revenge. And actually, the reason for the revenge is Richard kind of was hitting on every female on the staff, and so
with a bat.
I don't remember that.
Just talk to some of the women. So,
and have you seen him? I mean, he's
sort of like I have a lot of respect for Richard. I have a lot of respect
for the numbers. He's
sort of a scary Santa Claus.
So one thing you can always get Richard because he doesn't understand something. He there's this free software theme song that he likes to sing, and he doesn't realize that it's kind of goofy when you sing it. So we asked him to sing it, and he sang it. It was very funny, and it was kind of mean. But
that's terrible.
We got our revenge.
That is mean.
A cappella. But, Suzanne Vega sang, Tom Steiner a cappella. That wasn't mean.
Yeah, well, she's a singer. Maybe that's
there's a difference.
I feel so dirty.
You didn't know we did that?
No. I didn't know why.
You didn't know why we made him sing? I didn't make him sing. I just said, Richard, would you sing? And he said, I'd love to, Liam.
He's got a lot of hair.
It was like the Merv Griffin show.
We also, to say a couple nice things about Stallman, he is the source of a tremendous...
We owe him hugely.
Yes.
I mean, is it safe to say he's pretty much the source of the entire public license?
Or the inspiration of
GPL?
Yes. GPL.
He's the father.
Most of the tools we use on the open source versions of Linux.
There's something about many of these open source guys, though, they're like Eric Raymond. They're characters.
They're iconoclasts.
They're odd, to say the
You have to be.
I guess so.
They're hardcore.
Well, they said we're not going to make any money on this, much like I've said many times.
Yes, when they're saying it, they're doing it out of a sense of opening things up for the world. When we say it, it's because we're ironic and cynical.
And you can't make money off it.
Speaking of making money, I have a question. Who here is deeply fascinated by Google taking advantage of the insane stock price to sell off 14 million and change in shares for approximately $4 billion?
Stock's still going to go up.
Still rating at $500.
I was watching. If anybody out there, in fact, I'm blogging this on Monday morning, by the way.
Dvorak.com/blog.
.org.
Sorry. Oh, I screwed it up.
Although you could get the other way.
You get a free one. Dvorak.org/blog.
So anyway, Jim Cramer show, Mad Money, is probably one of the greatest shows ever to appear on television.
How does this guy get on TV, though? Didn't he get in trouble for...
Have you watched this show?
Oh, he's great. I love him. He's a character.
He's ranting. He did the math and indicated Google, even after this deal, based on its growth rate and the way people normally project these things, although I'm not in agreement with I have written that I think it could hit 500, but he says he can see it hit 900.
Jeez.
And I think, the stock's still got a lot of legs. And until it stops growing, which I don't see it happening anytime soon, this stock is just going to keep going up.
I don't, just so you know, I don't buy tech stock because I keep thinking Jim Louderback is going to come hit me, but he was the keeper of the flame at Tech TV.
There's some reasons those rules are in effect.
I think they're good rules, and I continue not to buy tech stock now because I'm afraid. But don't you think that the rug could be pulled out at any time, John? I mean, Google, if everything continues as is, but what if somebody comes up with a better way? Don't you think everybody would switch?
But even when Google came out, or when we saw Alta Vista and the rest of them come out one after another, they don't show up out of the blue. Google was lingering and lurking for years and years before all of a sudden it made its move. We don't see anything. I mean, if you can show me something that could unseat Google, it's going to be out there for us to see right now, and it's going to unseat them in the future. There is nothing.
There have been a number of sites that say the next Google Teoma. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah, well, that's the point. These things you use them for a while, you go, this sucks, this stinks, and all the sites I've seen stink.
It was a
Clusty,
Russian.
remember Clusty? Yeah.
Clusty, the clustering.
Bad name.
Yeah, cluster, whatever you want to call it.
Well, the thing is, it's not just about standard search anymore either. I mean, they're building a collection of different services, from the mapping services to the email.
And the mapping services.
So that's the question.
Everything.
Google already has something like $3 billion in the bank. They're getting another $4 billion in selling this additional stock. What are they going to buy? What do they want?
It's not even that. It's just they're taking a lesson from Microsoft. If you have billions in a war chest, it's a lot easier to cover your ass if anything goes wrong.
So
or if you do want to
they
buy
say it's
something.
an acquisition that they want. That's for acquisition purposes.
Well, they're also. I mean, the other rumor about Google that was all over the place this week was that they were going to start their own, free Wi-Fi, their nationwide free Wi-Fi network.
Because they bought all that dark fiber.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. They plan on launching an instant messaging service soon. I hear.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like it's just this sort of rolling détente between Yahoo and Google. If one does something, the other one has to. I believe we've lost.
I'm just playing around. No, I have to start the. Apparently, Skype went down.
We
mentioned VoIP usages on the rise.
I think listen, we're going to talk about crazy companies. What is Google or Yahoo doing, spending $1 billion on a risky Chinese venture? I mean, while Google's taking money in, Yahoo.
But look what Yahoo
historically to be able to do this. Look at Broadcast.com. They've wasted.
Well, that was ridiculous.
Money time and time again.
Mark Cuban's driving me crazy. As if this guy did anything brilliant.
I know.
The only thing brilliant he did was he, stumbled into $5 billion.
Let me tell you something. I'll call that.
That's lucky.
You know what? Luck, brilliance. It's all about taking.
He found somebody stupid enough to pay $5 billion for
and
Broadcast.com.
he sold instead of sitting on it because it was going to be worth $25 billion in 3 years.
That's the one good thing he did.
Delete expletive smart.
I think he did it because he wanted to be able to buy the Mavericks and yell and scream and chomp his feet.
Well, he's obviously enjoying himself.
He's having a good time. I'm not knocking him.
Well, he's got the HD thing going too, which is interesting.
Interesting. That's about it.
Well, I said the word interesting.
Interesting. So, how did this come up? I forgot.
We were talking about looking at Google. Yeah, is Google, are they going to start a free
Yahoo.
Wi-Fi network?
The reason Yahoo buys China is, look what their strategy has been very successful, is the partnering with Docomo in Japan, SBC in the States. They're the big internet service provider for both those companies. That's been, I think, their number one smart strategy that they've done. They are the portal in Japan. They are the portal for all SBC customers, guaranteeing you millions and millions of page views a day. That's a smart move. I think they want to do the same thing in China.
Be working for them.
I talked to somebody today who said that the last time they were at Yahoo, it was nuts. They're going crazy there. They're working long hours. They are trying to grab the brass ring right now. They see this as their big opportunity.
Yeah, their hope. It's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
Google engineers are saying that they believe Yahoo search returns better results than Google does.
Wow.
Really?
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Me neither.
Well,
they're using they dumped Google and they use Inktomi now, or Inktomi, right?
No, they acquired Inktomi a while ago.
Yeah, but that's what their engine is now, Inktomi instead of the Google engine.
I don't know.
I don't think Inktomi was ever that good.
Well, it was for a moment.
So was Alta Vista for a moment.
Well, during that one, there was a short period when Hotspot was actually the top. I thought it was the best search engine.
And then all the web was good too.
But all the web is a meta. That doesn't count, right? That's
no. All the web's not a meta.
What was it?
It's a genuine. It's their own search.
Freestanding search.
It used to be called something else originally. Fast.
Yeah. That's the technology they use. So is all the web still good?
Sweden or something like that.
Is all the web still good? I mean, is there anything better than Google?
No.
How does Google do it?
They have a clean white page.
They hire a lot of engineers.
It is. I mean, look at the Yahoo page. Even if Yahoo were better, I wouldn't use it.
It hurts you to open that page. It's like, oh, God,
They did used to be clean, and then they went somewhere. Wired Magazine has I recommend it to anybody this month. They have a year-by-year history of the last 10 years of the Internet, and a great picture of Philo and Yang and of Sean Fanning. I mean, some great pictures. It's amazing what's happened in just 10 years. Yeah. It's a lifetime.
It's like Future Shock, baby.
I mean, I was older than you, Patrick, 10 years ago.
And you still are, ironically.
You mean that picture I have in the attic hasn't done a thing, huh? Damn.
No, Dorian. Either that or you'd look really traumatized.
I just did a Yahoo search for my name. It doesn't look any better than Google. I'm not that impressed.
Try Leo Laporte podcast and see what the difference is between Google and Yahoo. And let me tell you something else. You know, one of the things I do on my blog, Dvorak.org/blog, is that I run a lot of stat programs, and you can see the number of bots that come through to look at your index.
Bots.
Google has 10 times as many bots as Yahoo. Yahoo's actually third. I mean, it's mostly Google, then MSN, and then Yahoo, and both of those are way down at the bottom. They don't have enough worms or crawlers out there. It's
spiders,
crap.
not worms. Don't say the worm word. I do actually look at the same stats, and I'm amazed at the number of crawlers that I don't know anything about that are crawling and downloading hundreds of megabytes every month from me, sometimes gigabytes. Who are these people? What are they? What are they looking at me for?
Sometimes gigawatts.
Gigawatts of, well, I'll give you an example. I'm just running the stats on right now on thisweekintech.com. Did I say that? Thisweekintech.com.
Great.
You know, people usually have already gone there to get to the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They already know. I don't have to tell them. As you do with Dvorak.org.
Yeah, let's just stop the whole dueling self-promotion right now.
I learned everything I know from this man, John C. Dvorak.
I'm not saying he's not brilliant.
Okay, the Google, when you put just Leo podcast, Google throws it right at the top.
But not Yahoo. Not Yahoo.
You know, the New York Times is going to write another article about this podcast next week, and then they're going to talk about we've moved from our incessant self-promotion to vanity searches, comparing vanity searches.
As if none of the New York Times reporters ever do a vanity search.
Yes, but they'll never talk about it in print, you see.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have Google Bot's number 1, MSN Bot is number 2, then Unknown Robot identified by Crawl is number 3, then Ink2Me Slurp, which is presumably Yahoo.
I like some of the stuff MSN is doing. Have you checked out their sandbox? Their little start.com thing they're working on?
No, tell me about that.
Take a look at this.
That's been out for a while, though, hasn't it? Isn't that old? They've been sitting on it forever.
No, this is a new, because of Yahoo's homepage and Google's homepage, they're trying to do a kind of my MSN.
Yeah, but it's all Ajax, and it's all pretty. You can drag and drop
What is
things around
Ajax?
the
That's
page.
much like the Google. What is Ajax? Is that technology?
Yeah, it's basically a combination of, it's like, what do they used to call it? Was it XML, HTTP?
Yeah.
It allows you to do like really
DHTML,
cool dynamic
HTML,
stuff. You can drag and drop stuff around, move it around.
Well, Microsoft practically invented that, so it's ironic that Google scooped them on that. But it's good they can do it now.
That's pretty cool.
It works with all browsers, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing.
And it's nice because a lot of the stuff that used to require like a hard refresh to a page can now be done directly within the page without having to.
That's the same thing with the Google Start page, IG, where you can drag things around.
Exactly.
I love that.
How popular are these? Do you really use
I use Google IG as my homepage, you bet. But Dvorak, you have your own custom Start page.
I have a portal page
which is starting to look
home without HTML.
It's starting to look more and more like the label of a Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap bottle.
Well, you know, the problem with it is, I think the days, you know, I did this thing years ago as a text-only page, so it would load real fast. But I think the days of that, as we approach, I think Canada's announced that they've hit full saturation. This is a news story we didn't cover, but it was about a week or two ago that the Canadians say, you know, saturation for broadband, everybody agrees is 75% of the population. And Canada appears to have hit it.
Really? 75%? We're close, though. We're almost 60% now.
Yeah, we're in the low high 50s right now. And they expect to hit it. We expect to hit it in the next 2 years. When it happens, there's no reason to have these slow-loading pages or these fast-loading pages. You might as well go for it with, you know, everything.
Hey, John, did you catch any of the articles this week that suggested that the FCC's estimations of broadband penetration in the U.S. were kind of bogus?
No, but I've always felt that the FCC's definition of broadband was kind of bogus.
How are they defining it?
Well, you know, depending on who you talk to, it's anywhere from 300K to a megabit, and they don't say much more about anything faster. And to me, broadband begins at a megabit.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Although if you have dial-up, 300K sounds pretty fast. I mean, I remember I was happy with ISDN. It's at the 128.
ISDN was great. Especially if you were in a part of a city where they had, you know, incredibly bad copper. ISDN was a miracle.
Yeah, I think John's exactly right, though. By definition, DSL is not broadband.
Because it's too fast.
No, it's too slow.
Well, it depends on which version you've got.
The American version of DSL is too slow.
Right.
We should have, you know, they've been talking about XDSL and VDSL and all these high-speed DSLs, you know, in 99. And where are these things? They've never put them in place. And the thing that really galls me the most is the phone companies are always hinting that if North Point and all these competitors get off of our lines, we can put these bright boosters on. We can push the signal out a lot further and then jack up the rate so we're not subsidizing these other guys. Why should we be upping the ante for everybody when they're just poachers sitting on our lines and charging money for it.
Well, the FCC said now they can do that.
Yeah, and then what's happened? We still don't get the speed. It was all BS.
Somebody said Cisco's sitting on a DSL that is multi megabit. That's just 100 megabit DSL that they're just sitting on it. 100 megabit.
Doesn't sound right.
I don't think you can do that over copper.
Somebody's nodding.
Not at this.
Somebody in this room is nodding. Somebody who can't say anything is whispering in Kevin's ear.
There may be something that works in the lab. I mean, this is typical. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that works in the lab. You put it in the field, and one squirrel gets on the line. The next thing you know, you got nothing.
Damn squirrels! It's all about the squirrels!
Hey, you laugh, but when we had the copper replaced, when the copper at my friend's house, which was put in the 40s, when it finally completely rotted through, corroded through.
Yeah, cloth-wrapped copper.
Well, yeah, cloth-wrapped copper. The cloth had disintegrated. The copper was rotting through. At one point, I was using a pair of vice grips to bridge one of the breaks in it because at the point, we couldn't. We were waiting for 9X to show up.
You're the kind of guy that uses a copper penny on a fuse to reuse it, aren't you?
No,
Vice grip hanging off the wire.
No, well, the particular wire in question was on the side of the house. It was about 5 feet off the ground. Hey, look, if you're waiting, we were waiting for somebody to call back. We were waiting for a client to call back. If the client called back and we weren't there, we were not going to get the gig, okay? It was money. We needed it.
I'm here, but just hold as long as the vice grip holds.
9X shows up like 4 days later. They look at the copper. They're like, wow, we can't believe this didn't fall apart sooner. They replace it. Our web connection went up like 20K.
Is the future Fios, this fiber that Verizon's putting in? I mean, this is amazing. They get fiber to your curb, and then they put Ethernet, 100 megabit Ethernet.
Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to dig a hole to every curb?
They're putting it. They're in like 40 cities now.
40 cities. Which 40 cities? What percentage of the cities? They didn't finish wiring Brooklyn for cable until the late 90s.
A lot of the LA area, Providence is wired. They've got fiber to the curb. It's $50. You get 7 megabits down. You get a megabit up. And they fiber to the curb, and then they put 100 megabit Ethernet into your house.
Which sounds great, but it's the same problem we've had with every.
It's rolling out very quickly.
Well,
no, I'm with Norton on this one. I don't see any evidence of it. I think it's popping up here and there, especially with new developments, but I don't think we're going to be getting it anytime soon.
Well, no, I agree with you. Those of you who live in densely populated urban areas with rundown buildings.
I don't live in a densely urban area with rundown buildings.
Just because John and I agree doesn't mean he lives in the pathetic housing situation that I do.
But in my area where everything's underground, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal.
It costs a lot of money to run cable. You know what I mean? It takes time and it takes money.
Although they amortize it out over 30 years, right?
Yeah. Which is like the entire cable industry was built over basically writing off the cost of upgrading.
So why is Verizon touting it? Why are they doing it if they don't plan? I mean, you're saying this is
political?
Political?
Yeah. It's a good show. You can put on a good show. Look what we're doing. Look what we're doing. Let us do our own thing. We need to get, like they did in Pennsylvania, we need to be able to tell the metropolitan areas that they can't put in WiMAX. We need this, we need that. Look at all the good we're doing. It's bullshit.
Yeah, look at the size of these spools. These are huge spools.
I talked to a guy who spends $100 a month for Fios. He's got 80 megabits down. I don't
He's
know why
a lucky
you'd
guy,
want it.
and let's go move into his house. Let's put a server in there and see how long it lasts.
Well, that's a good point. I don't know. I want
I'm not buying what these big companies
15 megabits down for $50.
I tried to sign up for this when I was in LA.
Yeah, you can't.
They said it was only in like one area.
Yeah. Well, it's spread more because I do a radio show down there and I talk to people all the time now. It's spread more.
That's good.
I don't know.
One of us on this show gets this, that we can talk about it directly. I'm not.
Okay.
I just want Verizon's cell phone service to work in my own neighborhood.
Mr. Dvorak, Verizon. Mr. Dvorak, Land Shark.
We have your cable.
We're outside now. There's a couple black cars pulling.
Run, John, run. Did the security escape?
Should we take some questions from the vast TWiT audience, the TWiT army, as they are known? Hey, by the way, before we do that, I want to remind everybody, our first live TWiTcast is coming up September 4th, Labor Day weekend. We're going to be at the Apple Store in San Francisco. We're going to take over the whole place.
Speaking of riots.
They have a nice auditorium there, and $50 iBooks for everybody who comes.
No, don't even suggest that, Leo.
I thought the first public one was the 11th, Leo.
It is. We moved it up. The first public one is the 18th at Noonan's, but September 4th, Apple has invited us to use the Apple Store.
There will be no $50 iBooks. Let us make this abundantly clear.
$20 iPods?
Like $5 autographs from Leo.
I'll give you autographs for $5. That's cheap.
Hey.
No, anybody, autographs galore.
Leo will sign anything you bring.
I've ordered 500 pocket protectors, TWiT pocket protectors,
Cool.
which will be free to the first 500 people who
I'm
are
going to get a shirt with a pocket again.
See that old ZDTV pocket protector? That is, I could sell that on eBay for at least $12.
And if you first signed it, it would sell for at least $7.
So I've ordered 500 pocket protectors that'll say, what should they say on them? TWiT Army?
Sure.
Can we got something a little cooler than the pocket protectors?
What's cooler than a pocket protector?
I think that's pretty
good. You're with me on this, right?
Actually, I love the
question should be,
protector.
what's cooler than a pocket protector that costs less than 71 cents?
A little change purse?
Okay, okay, I'll get some change purses too. We'll see how many of those.
You know, I saw somebody use it where you squeeze it.
Yeah,
A rubber clam thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's very popular.
We're going to start getting phone calls from like, hi, I'm Bob from Amalgamated Novelties, and I've got some great items you can use to promote your...
71 cents? It's a deal. Okay.
Less than 71
Less
cents.
than 71. The pocket protectors in quantity, I think,
How do we get, like,
cents.
fans? Like they used to get on, remember
Well,
the old funeral home fans?
Let me see. Is there anybody who's not going to be there? You're going to be there, right, Kevin? Because I think if you're not there, we should have a picture of you on a stick, and then we can have You're going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Patrick's going to be there. Dvorak, you going to be there?
Do you want me to not be there?
To
I
be
can
there,
stay
but
home.
The picture on a stick might work.
John, if you don't come, let us know. We'll get a picture on a stick of you. Steve Gibson can't be there. He's in Irvine. So.
And you and I are doing our own thing anyway now, Leo.
Oh, yeah. See, now he's moved on.
Yeah.
He's got the number 2 podcast in the nation. He's moved on.
Sounds just like...
Where is Marty? Maybe we got Marty's picture on
Marty,
a stick.
we want Marty to come in for the podcast.
We have an invitation for
and we're
going to
be in
Sargent.
a bar, Marty. What more could you ask for?
Oh, that's
bar
he's in LA.
and an audience.
He's in LA.
Dude's got a car.
We could put a picture of John on a stick and do one of those Conan O'Brien moving mouth things.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. The clutch cargo thing?
The problem is we don't have video.
Roger Chang, you're going to be there September 4th?
Yes.
Okay, so no masks.
bring video.
Prager, let's do it. We'll all have Prager masks. Anyway.
That's just scary.
So we're going to we'll be in the auditorium at the Apple Store September 4th. Please come. The broadcast begins sometime around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're just going to have a lot of fun. And I will have pocket protectors.
Just remember that parking is expensive. So
It's tough. Yeah.
Take public transit.
Take Bart. Bart dumps you right there.
And, you know, even though this show really never says anything, you can see how much fun we're all having, and everybody else will, too.
Well, we don't say anything because we promised to, play a guy calling in, and we never do it.
Hey, let's bring up a live question.
Shiloh Hanning out of...
Oh, yeah. Listen, I got this guy, who did you say he is? He's the wrestler?
Oh, it sounds like the, not Goodwill Hunting. What's the movie with Cusack where he plays...
This is the number 1 podcast in the nation.
Point. This is the number 1 podcast in the nation, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm Shiloh Hanning out of Zanesville, Ohio. I was thinking about...
I want to hear his name.
Yeah, I'm Shiloh Hanning out of Zanesville, Ohio. I was thinking about starting my own web podcast, and I was wondering if you knew any place where you was able to download free music samples without having to pay a royalty. Thank you very much, Leo. And the gang.
What, do you want to do, a music show?
Maybe. I mean, there is PodSafe Music.
Oh, who cares?
But it's all pretty bad.
Go to OP Sound. OP Sound.
OP Sound?
Yeah, opsound.org.
Creative Commons, the thing John loves so much, has a music page of stuff you can use on podcasts.
Yeah. All fantastic material.
None of it as good as our fabulous Doing the Twit. Do you love that?
I never heard it.
Oh, it's great. It's Ashley Twit did it for us. He's a professional composer. It's at the end of every podcast. Here's just a little. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like PBS.
And his name is Ashley Twit?
Yeah, so he had to do it for us.
Doing the Twit.
Yeah, he's doing the Twit. All right, another question.
Hi, Twit. I'm Jefferson Host from the Netherlands, and I'm interested in your opinion on the future of operating systems. For the last decade and a half, OS interfaces have been either command prompts or windowing systems. Is this going to change? Are we going to use other input devices than keyboards and mice? Basically, what are operating systems going to look like in 10 to 20 years? Right.
He's not really asking about operating systems, but user interfaces.
Yeah, that's what
Yes. How is that going to change?
It's not.
I say it's going to change a lot.
No. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
This is basically, once it stabilizes the way, it's like the automobile. First they had a stick, and then they had the wheel in the middle, and then they did this, and they finally got it together what an automobile should be like. It doesn't have a starter. It doesn't have a starter button anymore. Essentially, they've got it together, and now that's all they do. It's just little variations. I just don't see...
But that took them 40 years, John. Have we hit that point that we're
I mean, the
perfect?
first machines came out in 75. We're at 30 years now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of interesting until somebody figures out a way to jack into the back of your skull.
Jeff Raskin, the late Jeff Raskin, unfortunately, did some really interesting stuff with zooming interfaces that I liked. It was not when he's always hated windowing. He doesn't like the idea of encapsulating data in a box. And I really liked what he was doing. It's called Archie. You can see. I'll put a link in the show notes. But the idea there was it's kind of an infinitely zoomable desktop. So you could dig down into the desktop and have documents in there and zoom into them and zoom out. And I really liked it.
I think the reason our current desktop works as well as it does is that it models the way people think. I mean, we think in terms of documents and in terms of things, and I think that the model maps well. And I really agree with John in much the same way that the Apple II had a word processor and a spreadsheet that are basically the same as what we have today because we're done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it models it works well for a certain segment of the population. There's a lot of people that find the entire interface frustrating. But you get into there's different forms of intelligence. And there's different ways of processing information. And for people who are literate, and for people who are used to using this paradigm or have been forced into this paradigm, it's not bad.
The people who are not are just going to die off. I mean, literally.
Are artists going to die off? Are musicians going to die off?
Many of these artists are more adept at using these machines than most of us.
And
if you watch some guy using Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop and watch him go through the machination
amazing.
On his loaded machine, which he usually has an Apple that's got extra processors in it, and he says he's not a computer geek. I'm thinking, holy mackerel, you're like 10 times more one than I am.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But in a very narrow.
What about voice recognition? Keyboards are pretty antiquated.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Really? Would you like that, John?
I'd love voice recognition.
Well, that's a big difference in the user interface.
It's not doable. Listen to us. We can barely understand each other.
I totally agree with John. I think that, in fact, it's about bandwidth. And when you really think about it, in terms of specifying what you want to do, a mouse cursor where you're able to move across the surface and click icons and drag things and move things, that's an amazing amount of bandwidth between you and the system that is like zero error. If you try to verbally specify the same kind of things, it's a huge nightmare.
Well, all hail Doug Engelbart.
What happened to voice recognition software? What happened to the Dragon Naturally Speaking that was so popular way back then?
ScanSoft bought it all.
IBM and ScanSoft. Did IBM sell
No, IBM still had ViaVoice to ScanSoft. ScanSoft owns Dragon and ViaVoice. And Microsoft owns the third one, Learn Out and Housepi, and that's it. It's over. Now, everybody says IBM's doing a lot of research in China, and that if you're going to do it, the one place you would do it would be China, where the keyboard doesn't make sense for their written language.
Have you ever seen one of those, 600 key keyboards? Those are amazing for Cantonese Mandarin.
Dvorak and Gibson say it ain't going to happen ever?
I think the mouse will get a little more humpy, because, they keep making the mouse more humpy.
I think that these things will be added on. I mean, again, take a look at the model or the analogy of the car. I mean, there's a lot of things that have changed, but we still haven't got a joystick or fly-by-wire car, which we could years ago.
But it doesn't work.
Well, it would be better, wouldn't it?
No,
it works for a plane.
No, well, if you think about it, if you had to drive a car with a stick, where would the feedback come through?
And you should point out that the plane, when you're flying it by a stick, you've got a stick, 2 pedals, and a separate set of throttles. You know what I mean?
And you don't have another plane 5 feet away from you.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. When you talked about this before, I was in these simulators, and there's one that I got in, which was the advanced flight simulator they have over at NASA Ames, and it's a fly-by-wire with a stick. It doesn't have all the pedals or anything. It's just basically just a stick, and it turns out to be really easy and comfortable to fly it.
Mm-hmm. It's because the computer flies it. You just tell the direction of the plane where you...
But it gives you feedback. The computer gives you feedback onto the stick.
It depends on...
It's relaxing. It's amazing.
I'd like that in my car. I'd like to relax when I drive.
They also say there would be so much less traffic, and there would be you could have a much denser...
Sorry, go ahead. Keep trying.
Oh, they say...
Sorry. Stop it. Stop. Okay, go ahead.
No, the research keeps coming out, and you look at the numbers of people looking at automotive traffic and the automotive density you can put in a square mile of a highway. And if it could all be, if you drove on, hit a button, and the computer started driving you on the highway, you can have a much, much higher, automotive density.
My thing has always been, what if one of those people doesn't change the oil or doesn't do the regular maintenance on the car?
The world's worst 80-car pileups.
Well, no, it ends up being similar to what happens now, except that instead of having a 53-car pileup, the forward motion sensor sees that the car's slowing down, and that slows everyone behind it. Now,
and then that one car gets thrown off to the side and burnt to a crisp,
as it should be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was driving in traffic yesterday, and I was like, man, if I had a decent bumper on the front of this truck, I would just stand on it, because there's nothing worse than being behind a $65,000 Porsche Cayenne, which can do 180 miles an hour.
It's not.
And I'm going to do it 55 in the passing lane because I am clueless. I mean, I don't know. There's moments where I could really get into the whole letting something else drive.
So you have a beef.
I have many beefs, John. Not like you. You have no complaints.
You two, it's funny. You two are closer than you think.
This is Kevin from IPRoots.com, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on IPTV. Do you think it's mainstream yet, and that it will ever be like broadcast television and become a common source of entertainment? Also, I know you guys are planning on doing a show in front of a live audience. So will we be seeing a video version of This Week in Tech? Thanks. I love podcasts. Keep up the good work.
Well, Kevin should answer this one. He's the king of IPTV.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I have a publication, IPTVdaily.com. Go check it out. It's in beta.
Yeah, I was gonna say to Kevin. First of all, to Kevin, excellent job following the Dvorak-Laporte model of self-promotion by using your web page rather than your hometown.
Yes, good job.
Question. That's nicely done.
Yeah.
Second of all, is it mainstream yet? No, not even close.
You, Patrick, did your first IPTV broadcast for PC Magazine.
Yeah, how'd that
and
work
we did
out?
our second one. It was actually really good.
I tried to click on it, and it wouldn't stream.
Hey, I sent Patrick a note saying it wouldn't stream for me either.
Well, here's the problem. What we can't seem to get people to figure out is, and what we're going to have to do is manually remove the link, because the link there is only going to be active when we're actually broadcasting. And then we're archiving the shows and making them available off a separate server. So what we did is we left the link up on the web page, and I keep getting these emails like, dude, it doesn't work. It's broken. And the problem is it's not broken. We're just not sending anything out over it right now.
Oh, that's a good reason to have a link.
It's called a dead link.
It's not broken. It just doesn't work.
It works. It's just you don't receive anything until we're sending it at the other end. Great. I'm going to start stocking in like PR marketing speak in a second.
There's this thing called an HTML editor, and you get in there and you can just take that link out.
Ours actually does that. We actually when you do a page,
that's some serious technology.
Ooh.
You laugh, Steve, but
Steve would write that in assembler, and it would be 4K.
Well, you write it and send it my way.
Well, let me say something about IPTV.
Yes, let's get down to that.
And what's that webpage again, John?
IPTVdaily.com, as opposed to IPDaily.
IPDaily.com is a whole other site.
Somebody took that one already. So anyway, the thing is, if you go around anywhere else in the world, in fact, you can see this by the number of news stories that come out, that IPTV is already in place to really bump broadcasting over it, and it's going to be the dominant form of TV distribution in areas that don't have cable TV.
We're talking about television coming in over the internet.
And in fact, I saw some good demos of this when I was in Stockholm at the Ericsson research facilities, and they have IPTV all over Sweden, and essentially it looks like you wouldn't know the difference between that and cable, and they have, of course, 30 megabit per second connections, which helps quite a bit.
Well, that's where broadband penetration and high-speed internet is going to be very important. There's no point in doing it unless you get universal broadband.
What we've got here, and we've got cable TV, we don't need IPTV, but around the world, and in China, is going to be huge. It's really going to be a dominant form of distribution, and what it's going to eventually result in, and I think that's why Kevin's kind of on the right track here with that system thing they're doing, is that I think it's going to create a lot of mini broadcasters, people that can put up one or two things and just let people get them when they feel like it.
Kind of a la carte
style. Bust up broadcasting.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is that you see a couple different paths here. You see the mainstream networks that are kind of jumping on that bandwagon. You have like the SBCs getting ready to deploy the set-top boxes, but it's going to be a while until we can actually push our content to a set-top box. Right now, it's all done through vidcasting, where people subscribe to our feed and then automatically download through BitTorrent or direct download. But which is, I guess, it's IP based, but it's not really on your TV.
Right, it's not true IPTV.
Right.
So it's not. We agree it's not IPTV until it comes into your living room set.
Yeah, but isn't that changing though? If you start moving forward and looking forward 5 years, does the cable, does the box plugged into the television, become the norm, or are people going to be moving towards multimedia computers that are attached to an HDTV
or a portable handheld
device?
I don't think either one of those models is what's going to happen. I think what you're going to end up with is basically the system we have now, but with 802.11n or whatever methodology you want to use. The ability to go to your computer, push a bunch of buttons, and have it sent to your TV directly. Get a feed like what you're doing, what say Kevin's doing. I can just click on it, and then I have a compatible box on my television set that has wireless on it, and I can just stream it over there and watch it on television.
Right. Which works right now though through Myth TV. You could do that. You can subscribe to the feed.
Myth TV actually attacks a little bit of this, and so does Akimbo to a lesser extent.
This is Will Hurst's pilot that he's doing on the peninsula, where it downloads stuff ahead of time, right, and then you watch it in a box.
Just download and play. Essentially, I think it's a stopgap for what the real future is, which is going to be something a little more advanced.
Well, and personal video recorders, a la TiVo, that are now being added to cable set-top boxes. I mean, it allows the hard drive to get the content anytime that the cable company can deliver it, and the user gets to watch it on their TV.
I don't think it's IPTV if you still need a computer. I think it's IPTV if the delivery mechanism is a peer to cable.
No, I agree with that. Except I think with a computer you can add an extra dimension. In other words, you can get these mini casts. You can get some things that are maybe more obscure. You can do a little more digging.
True.
What it should be in the same way that we have VCRs that allow you to add content to your TV.
Right.
I mean, it's interesting we realize that CNN. Oh, sorry, Kev. Roger.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying it just has to be transparent enough so someone like my dad can use it, and it's straightforward enough that you don't need a PC. But I mean, you guys are all hitting on a good point. It's TV a la carte. You pick the shows you want to watch, not necessarily like, oh, I got to pick up MTV because I want to watch, heaven forbid, Pimp My Ride.
I'd say watch what happens with radio and with podcasting, because I think that's a precursor technology to all of this, and I think that's exactly what's happening right now with radio, is that people are replacing music radio with their iPod because it's got the songs they want and they don't have any DJs or ads, and they're starting to replace talk radio with podcasts, and that's exactly the same thing. The only difference is
one infinity station that they can't make money off of is not entirely a trend make.
I'm not talking about KYOU. I
think we should let Infinity buy us.
Anybody who wants to buy us can right now. What's our
Clear
price?
Channel, you out there listening?
What's our price?
We're up for sale. Well, it's got to be, because we're so early on the curve, it's got to be millions.
$5 billion.
Hey, you know what? We'll trade it for a whole bunch of Google stuff.
Well, how many hosts do we have?
But then there would have to be ads. We don't want ads.
We got 6 hosts. That's $6 million.
Hey, do you want to own a house, or it's $6 million
for the rest of us?
Sell early.
$30 million.
We'll crank it up again later.
Okay. We could always do it again.
After the clause, they'll keep you out of the business for a while with a non-compete. But you get $1 million cash. I can live with it.
Somehow you'll finally be able to get your opals out of that safe, John.
At Dvorak.
Did you ever get a safe cracker?
Well, here's the problem. It turns out we're still working on this. The problem was that it's a defective safe that had a bunch of safety bolts that apparently, if somebody tried to steal the safe, these things would throw these bolts all over the place, so you couldn't open it.
Right.
Under any circumstances, even with a safe cracker. So it has to be opened up by the company in some way, shape, or form. So it has to be drilled.
You can't get a welder and just weld it.
Well, essentially that's what they're going to do. But there's other ways of doing it.
I think you need a laser.
Hello, TWiT guy. This is Andy here, Phoenix, Arizona. I just like saying that. Hello, TWiT guy.
Okay, Andy.
Don't you screen these calls?
No.
Here's a question.
You want to hear what he has to say?
He's so happy.
He is happy.
G'day, Twitch. It's Lucky Phil and...
we're going to Lucky Phil and Sydney in a minute.
Hello, TWiT guy. This is Andy here, Phoenix, Arizona.
Cracking himself up.
I just like saying that. Hello, TWiT guy. Anyway, John, episode 18 was having some issues there with not being able to send HTML emails because they were getting assassinated by the filtering. John said he had some good tools to use for email filtering, and I was wondering, since he's not accepting emails through the TWiT site, if you could post links to the tools that he was using.
Remember, he wouldn't tell us. This is three-stage.
No, it was citytime.com, computertime.com.
Yeah,
over
we
at
like that.
Mark You could put a link on it.
Yeah, the answer is we did. Andy,
yeah.
we did post a link to Computer Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was that three-stage filtering process.
We did.
John never wanted to tell us about that.
No, I could tell you about it, but it's boring.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
as boring as the other guy.
Lucky Phil in Sydney.
G'day, Twits. It's Lucky Phil in Sydney, Australia, and I need some help in a major way. My ISP has started filtering all peer-to-peer traffic, and I therefore cannot use BitTorrent. Changing ISPs is not an option unless I go back to dial-up. I've worked around this by using some open HTTP proxy servers I found online, but these are often hit and miss and pretty slow. This also means I can only use BitComet, as other clients do not support HTTP proxy servers. Is there a better way I can avoid this content filtering?
This is going to happen more and more where people block certain kinds of content, like BitTorrent, to avoid, which is, by the way, a very legitimate way to distribute files. Our files are distributed that way.
Yeah. It's a shame.
It is a terrible shame.
I think the ISPs are even more paranoid, and with good reason, in Australia than they are here in the States.
Do you have a fix for this?
Yeah, but I think in Australia, they charge. I'm not sure. Last time I was there, they still charge by megabyte download.
Oh, you have a...
You were metered by how much you download, not how long you were on.
I think that makes a huge difference in the model, too, because, it's great to say, oh, yeah, you've got broadband and you have all this great connectivity, but when people really start using it, suddenly it really becomes expensive for the broadband provider. And if people are doing, it makes it easy to suck down multi-hundred megabyte files. Suddenly, someone's got to pay that bill.
How does he get around it?
I'm curious how they're blocking it, because unless they're just blocking the commonly used default ports for the peer-to-peer clients.
But he could use a different port.
Yeah, exactly.
Would he be able to BitTorrent with everybody else? Or would he only be able to people who use the different port? It just means he...
we should ask, Cohen might know the answer to this.
Yeah, Cohen would know the answer to it. Do you have his phone number? Or we'll call him.
I have it somewhere, but...
All right, I'd love to get Bram on the show sometime, the author of BitTorrent.
We're going to ask the question next week, do some research.
All right, we'll do some research. Because, it does use a standard port, but it can use any port.
Right.
But then what would the tracker would have to use that non-standard port, too, I think.
I bet you there's a fix for it that Cohen knows about.
Yeah.
This has got to be going on a lot.
I'd be wondering if that's because the Australian P2P sites had basically spent all that money getting their asses beat around in court. And I wonder if that's the Australian ISPs that they want no liability for P2P whatsoever.
They're scared.
Because the courts have been brutal on P2P in Australia.
That's really too bad, because that means they can't download the system. They can't download. I mean, we have an HTTP version. In fact, I even make a zipped port 80 version of this file for people who not only can't use BitTorrent and they can't use other non-standard ports, but they also can't even download an MP3. There are ISPs that will prohibit you from downloading an MP3.
That's just ridiculous.
Wow, by file extension, huh?
By file extension. So I do it as a zip.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Les.
We host The Signal, the only podcast in the verse dedicated to Firefly and Serenity.
It was great hearing your hearty recommendation of Firefly in TWiT number 17, and your fox-bashing technique was excellent.
However, we believe you were wrong about the theme tune. The words of the song relate to the defeat of the Independents at the Battle of Serenity Valley, and they express those themes perfectly.
Whoa.
You're out already? The movie's not out for 2 months.
No, they're talking about the theme that's used in the Firefly. What they're basically
saying... the one I
worst theme ever.
Yeah, no, actually, Dvorak and I are a united front on this, and I personally, I think... I gotta say, Joss Whedon, one of my favorite creators of television of all time, brilliant, gifted. No, he has great taste in music, but the Firefly theme, and I'm I'm probably the only country music fan. Okay, Leo loves country music. The Firefly theme, it's just...
It's a country theme?
I don't even know what... It's like a pseudo-folk theme. It's just...
It's almost as bad as the Enterprise theme.
Yeah, it's like, Josh, we love you, and,
These guys are so chipper and perky.
They're chipper and perky. They're brown coats. They're Firefly fans.
Something about you. Patrick sent me, there's a link at Apple has the trailer for the Serenity
trailer.
They have changed it. Now, I don't know, Patrick, if you've gone back to
trailer now.
Changed it 3 times. My son pointed out that if they keep changing it, we'll have the whole movie.
It'll be called Windows Vista.
They've changed it. This latest version is like completely different than the one before. We got a few more hints about the storyline, and they took out some of the funny stuff.
And you can watch it at 1080p if you've got enough horsepower.
Do they still? I don't think they still have the
high def
H.264 high def version.
That was.
But we also, but we should. It'd be fun to check out the Serenity podcast that they're talking about here. And the other thing that's going to be interesting is watching how Fox reacts to the movie if it's a success, or if maybe Sci-Fi will start bringing Firefly back to life.
Well, Josh has said that he refuses to do a series again, but he might do movies every couple of years.
I think the movies are fine.
I'll wait until he screws up Wonder Woman before I. Let's see.
Should we hear the rest of these perky?
Absolutely,
because I think they really are sweet.
Challenge John Dvorak to a duel. Towards the dawn?
Or you could just listen to our podcast at www.serenityfirefly.com.
They're learning from you, John. Duel at dawn, or listen to our podcast.
Do we have to use Do we use the swords like they did in the Shindig episode? I'll take that one up for you, John.
Where the batteries went dead. One of my favorite scenes.
All right, let me. As long as we're talking spooks here, people who cannot download MP3s.
Hello, Twits. This is Randall calling from near Charlestown, West Virginia, and I have a question concerning MP3 players. Where I work, it's a federal job, a 3-letter agency, and as you might imagine, they don't allow any sort of device that plugs into a USB port, and it's gotten to the point where they're not going to allow MP3s written onto CDs anymore.
Wow.
So I'm wondering if there's an MP3 player which can be run using flash memory, like SD cards, compact flash, or memory sticks. I'm sure they probably would allow that, but who knows? They make such a thing.
I have the same problem at the test site. They wouldn't allow in certain devices that were USB storage devices.
With where?
Nevada test site when I was working there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They wouldn't allow them. You couldn't bring them into the building?
No, you couldn't bring them into the facility at all.
So he's looking for a USB player with no flash memory, no USB connection? Or can we play this again? Because this is confusing.
It seems to me.
I think he just wants a flash player without a USB connector.
MP3s written onto CDs anymore. So I'm wondering if there's an MP3 player which can be run using flash memory, like SD cards, compact flash, or memory sticks.
There's a bunch of them.
I'm sure they probably would allow that.
Yeah, there's plenty of them.
But that don't have a USB port.
Yeah, the problem is these days, basically they want nothing that can connect to a local computer that can be used to...
A pocket PC device.
They won't allow those in. They have voice recorders.
You could actually, you know what?
How about this, not having to listen to music all day and doing some work at it? Taxpayers' money here.
Actually, what he needs is essentially an older MP3 player that doesn't have an internal, or doesn't have an onboard USB, that doesn't have an onboard USB jack.
Even my Diamond Rio had a USB jack. I mean,
but I think what he's asking is there a basically older USB players don't have the USB jack built into it. So if you spend some time searching around online on eBay or Craigslist.org, you can probably find an old MP. I've got an old MP3 player we can sell, like any of the old Diamond Rios.
Yeah. Send it to him. Put it in the box of crap.
Are we still not giving that away yet?
No. This is a sore spot.
The box is ready to go. My wife says she'll send it.
You have my promise. This week, I will take my precious time and go through the 4,000 name submissions, and we'll figure out
who is the closest.
I know who the winner is because there's one that came very close to This Week in Tech. Nobody got This Week in Tech. I thought that up, but there's one that's very close. So they're the winners, and then you guys have to help me pick places 2 through 5 because
what does places 2 through 5 get? Does my wife talk to you? Because you said tell Leo he can give away a box of your crap every week on the show.
Hey, I can top that.
What's that?
I got more boxes of crap than Patrick.
But I want to filter through your crap before it goes out.
His might be valuable.
No, your stuff's probably worth more than...
Hey, guys, you can have a giveaway at the live shows.
Bring our crap to the live shows.
Boxes of crap. Okay, so now we have
giveaway.
Pocket protectors and...
crap.
No, we should do mystery boxes.
Techno crap.
Mystery box.
I got lots of cables.
No microphone. No microphone, but lots of cables.
I think every geek has a drawer with cables.
I have.
I have a case.
What's behind you is my cable drawer. Every geek has a drawer that's full of tangled cables.
I'm bringing cables.
All right. John's going to give away cables.
Nobody wants cable.
Right.
That's the point.
Get John's cable. You can't autograph the
There
cable.
is somebody who wants cables, I guarantee it. It may not be everybody wants them.
I can use more cables.
If you think about it, you spend probably thousands of dollars on those cables. I mean, they're expensive.
What?
On you, not you, John. Anybody but you.
Hey there, Twits. This is Puffy calling in. I'm wondering about firewalls, antiviruses, and internet security suits. Like, what is the best internet security suit out there? Or like,
why do you think they call him Puffy?
He's been puffing. He's puffing.
Why do you think they call him?
Doesn't he mean sweet?
Yes, he means sweet. And I think we ought to tell him, Leo, just
Don't
to
use them.
security now every week.
Listen to our security podcast. We don't recommend suits.
Just doing nothing more than plugging the secondary show.
John, by the way,
at Dvorak.org/blog.
I'll put a link for you guys at the Dvorak.org/blog.
John, your podcast is next. I mean, I want to do the individual podcast with you, too. We've been planning this. The only thing that's holding me up is this Skype thing. If we can figure out how to get good audio out of you.
When I get a new machine, I got a new SLI machine I'm putting together. It should be pretty hot.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Well, great video, anyway.
Yeah, the video would be cool.
Hello, Twits.
Aren't we out of time?
Your motto was a twit.
Okay, that's enough. This is why at real radio stations they call screen. Yeah, that was real. They screen the calls before they put them on the air. Yeah, we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. All I can say is I'm terribly sorry.
Puffy, check the TWiT TV website. We'll put up some links.
This will never happen again.
We'll put up some links for you. Free security programs you can download. Don't spend money on a suite.
No, don't buy a suit.
No, and his question was too big.
It was
actually, I can give you a list of three. I mean, you know, it's like
we got some recommendations.
AVG at Greaseoff.com, AVG antivirus, and a couple of anti-spyware programs.
That's a good one. There's
it's actually they're making it
free is very good.
They're making it really hard to
search and destroy.
Yeah, they're making it really hard to find the free version.
You have to click and click and click. Yeah.
No, actually, I found out you have to go to downloads.com because it's almost impossible. I think it's actually impossible to find the free version of AVG antivirus on the website.
They weren't selling any more of their commercial versions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember that we have one more of these kind of virtual twits, and then every twit after that's going to be live starting September 4th. We'll be live at the Apple Store in San Francisco. Please come by. We'll begin the broadcast at 4 p.m., so come early. And we will have boxes of crap and, for the first 500 people, your very own TWiT pocket protector. No donation necessary. Starting November 18th, we're live from Noons at Larkspur Landing in Larkspur, California. Please come by when you're in the Bay Area. We've gotten some great people who want to be on the show. I'd love to get Bran Cohen if we can. Let's try to get him. Roger McGuinn of the Birds says he wants to be on the show. We'll get him on soon. But if you're in the area and you'd like to be on the show, just come by. $50 iBooks for every single.
No, don't say that.
And a tip of the TWiT topper to AOL Radio for providing us with the bandwidth for this podcast. 17 terabytes and counting. Visit them online, AOLmusic.com, or take a look at the new podcasting page on which we are featured. music.aol.com/radioguide/podcasting. John C. Dvorak, Steve Gibson, Roger Chang, Kevin Rose, Patrick Norton, I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining us. Another TWiT has hit the can. That's it for episode 19 of This Week in Tech. If you want to know more about the things we discussed, make sure you visit the website, thisweekintech.com. And while you're there, don't forget to press that donation button. $2 a month, less than a gallon of gas or a latte, will keep this show commercial-free and on the air. And don't forget, we'd love to see you at our live broadcasts starting September 4th, Labor Day weekend, Sunday at 4 p.m. We'll be live from the Apple Store in San Francisco. No admission fee and pocket protectors for the first 500 people to stop by. And then starting September 18th, every Sunday at 4 o'clock, live from Noonan's Bar and Grill. It's at Larkspur Landing in Marin County, California. It's an easy ferry ride over from San Francisco. If you're in the area, we'd love to see you. I'm Leo Laporte on behalf of all the TWiTs. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on This Week in Tech. This Week.
Crap here.
everywhere. No,
I'm just going to thinking thank you all. This week in this has been a week from hell. I'm in Paris, so on 9-hour service day. This week in tech. My friends, my twits, are you ready? Yeah, the Twit Army. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. Let me introduce the table mates. John C. Dvorak. Kevin Rose. Patrick Norman. David Prager. Robert Heron. I got the Twit Army behind me. Microsoft poop-booted. Denied is a no problem. It's a fool's paradise. This week. This is amazing.